The Elder Scrolls Skyrim is coming up to its 10th birthday this year. That's absolutely insane. The 6th instalment might have been confirmed with an announcement trailer, however the devs have made it abundantly clear that it's a hell of a way off, even upsetting some fans with a little humorous tweet. We know for a fact that Elder Scrolls 6 will not be entering full production until the highly anticipated Starfield is released. Even that is shrouded in mystery. If we are lucky, we might receive a release date for Starfield later on this year, but I would have to guess that the Elder Scrolls 6 is still a good at least 3 years off. Unless Bethesda has secretly had it in development this whole time so they can surprise us, which I highly doubt. Todd Howard in reality is actually incredibly stretched thin. He's now the executive producer of Starfield, the Elder Scrolls 6, the recently announced Indiana Jones game adaptation, and he even overlooks and inspects and signs off all the major work going on for Fallout 76. With this in mind, I will quickly go over the few details we know and suspect about the Elder Scrolls 6, with my own theory towards the second half of the video. There are 3 major points that lead us to think the game will be set in Hammerfell, or at least will contain Hammerfell as a playable area in it, potentially having multiple big regions of Tamriel to explore. In the second half of 2018, Bethesda's parent company ZeniMax trademarked the title Redfall. You could speculate that this is a mix of the name Redguard and Daggerfall, which has led to fans to speculate this game could take place in multiple regions. It's public knowledge that this trademark was opposed by an author who had a book series titled Redfall. This was resolved, however, between the two. I suspect ZeniMax either paid off the author or used its really over-aggressive lawyers to intimidate him. Bethesda's lawyers are unreal. They're just on steroids. The massive channel Camelworks, that's heavily orientated around Bethesda games, looked deeper into the announcement trailer of the Elder Scrolls 6. He studied the terrain, small towns, he was cross-referencing lore, he even looked at which way the shadows were casting, and he managed to confirm it is undoubtedly Hammerfell in the trailer. It's an amazing trailer breakdown, which I definitely recommend watching. I'll put the link in the description. The Elder Scrolls Twitter account made a New Year's tweet, accompanied by a picture of a map of Northern Tamriel, with the caption, "Transcribe the past and map the future." Here's where my theory comes in. So most people are taking this as Skyrim is the past, that being the last game, and the charted area on the map. Hammerfell being the future game, since that is on the map but it's an uncharted territory. There's no holes in it on show or whatever. But people are also speculating there could be High Rock in the next game. They've covered High Rock with a High Rock, and there's other different little points that might edge towards the Bretons. I've also seen people talking about the significance of the date at the bottom of this map. Completely ignore this. It's just when the original author of this map created this map of Skyrim. It's exactly the same map that came in the same game, the same date. At most it tells us the next Elder Scrolls will be relatively close to the events of Skyrim, as the landscape hasn't changed enough to warrant a new map of the area. I want to point out some ideas the Stormcloaks had during the events of Skyrim that make me think they could be involved. Bear with me here, the rest of the video is reaching and is all speculation, but it makes sense in my head and I am obsessed with this storyline that I've come up with. Assuming the Stormcloaks' victory is canon, which I really think it is, many events in Skyrim hint at the downfall of the Imperial Empire. For example, the Emperor being assassinated, kind of a big one, causing instability. Although the Civil War questline was bland, the Stormcloaks still had more focus than the Imperials. The Imperial East Empire Shipping Company is in disarray in Skyrim. That means less trade, less gold, less supplies coming into Skyrim for the Imperials' use, as their boats are being attacked by pirates. Also, Skyrim's logo being the Imperial logo in a state of decay is suspected to be foreshadowing the Imperial Empire's downfall. First, I'm going to present to you some dialogue from Galmar. Not only are Galmar and Ulfric looking to reclaim Skyrim, but they actually state they'll be taking the fight to the High Elves. You can get this clip if you've won the Civil War with the Stormcloaks, and Galmar talks about his future.
Ulfric's put me in charge of keeping an eye on the new Jarls. You know, make sure they're generally following orders. Can't say I'm looking forward to that, but I will also be training men and women for their new armies. The Empire might send over a few legionnaires to make sure we're serious. And of course, we'll be taking the fight to the elves soon enough. We'll need trained, disciplined, and creative warriors ready for all that.
Now this seems incredibly unreasonable, until the thought of an alliance pops into my head. Now, if you look back at the history of Tamriel, the High Rock Bretons, the Hammerfell Red Guards, and the Nords have all had some alliances at some points. The most notable of these alliances in the past would be when the Red Guards and Bretons got together to decimate the Orcs at the first attempt at an Orsinium. That was all the way back in the First Era. Then, during the Second Era, the Nords and Bretons allied when they refused to join the Second Empire. So they ended up actually going into the borders of Cyril and attacking Imperial forces. Maybe the Elder Scrolls 6 starts in Skyrim. We're presented with a stronger region with the Stormcloaks having prepared for a war since they won Skyrim back from the Empire. And most fans forget how famous Nords are for their battle toughness, their fearlessness in the face of death, and their intimidation. They were called up during the Great War because of how well they fight. Sadly, the game Skyrim doesn't actually depict the Nords as what they're supposed to be. Moving over to Hammerfell, the Red Guards have a deep hatred of the High Elves. When the Empire signed the White Gold Concordat with the Aldemeri Dominion, Hammerfell actually removed themselves from the Empire, becoming a sovereign state, and they done this just so the Aldemeri Dominion didn't have any influence or control over them. The last we hear about Hammerfell in lore is after a quite a long stalemate between the Aldemeri Dominion and the Red Guards of Hammerfell. The Dominion completely withdrew from Hammerfell, they just could not defeat its warrior people. From this conflict, the two factions of Hammerfell, which have been at war with each other for hundreds of years, actually bonded through the warfare. So Hammerfell were actually stronger after this. They're one people now, not two. However, the Aldemeri Dominion and Hammerfell did sign a peace treaty. While the people were prepared to fight them as long as they could and didn't want to sign this treaty, the rich, powerful people in Hammerfell signed it over. When we meet Kamatu in the game Skyrim, he states that the resistance is doing just fine against the Dominion. It's still very much alive and well. Also, you've got to think during this peacetime, the Red Guards will most likely be fattening up their military. As for motivation for the Bretons, the only lands connecting High Rock to the Empire is either Hammerfell or Skyrim, and as neither are on good terms in this scenario, the Empire wouldn't be able to get trade through by land. They would have to get trade through by sea at the ports at High Rock. The thing about High Rock is it's a completely unstable land. No court likes each other at all, from one hold to the other. They absolutely despise each other, backstab each other constantly, so I just don't think supplies would get inland very far. Also, the High Elves, the Falmor, would think the Bretons are a complete abomination, being half elf, half human. I can't find anything to state this, but it's just a given. The Falmor's true goal is racial purity, and the fact that anything but pure Ultima blood disgusts them, I doubt they would even take a Breton as a slave. Which also brings up another amazing point. The last we hear about Orsinium in lore, they are actually allied with a large part of High Rock now. And since they are another twisted, corrupted sub-race of elf, the Dominion would not treat them with full rights at all. I can imagine the Dominion using the Orcs as like a cannon fodder essentially. Just line them up like sandbags and just let them do a load of fighting. But the Orcs just wouldn't have that. The Orcs are very proud people. They'd rather die than do something they didn't want to do. So, we know Skyrim and Hammerfell are preparing for a war against the Falmor. The Empire is expecting a war and trying the best they can. The Bretons of High Rock have allied with both Skyrim and Hammerfell in the past. The Bretons are also allied with the Orcs of Orsinium, and now completely isolated from the Empire by land. They have good reason to go at it on their own without the Empire's help. Back to Galmar, as he said, his focus is to control Skyrim's Jarls and produce an elite army to tackle the elves with. The Stormcloaks are fully convinced they'll be the leaders of the next great army. Sometimes believing can get you halfway to your goal alone. So from the Empire's point of view, if they had a chance at defeating the High Elves with Skyrim and Hammerfell as allies instead of their states, I think they would take that chance. I reckon the Imperials, if they was to ally with either of them in this scenario, the long-term goal would be to eventually control both of them. But could you imagine a game featuring a great war that we can participate in, spanning over 3 provinces, maybe even more? Skyrim as the lead offence with its Nords up front, charging at the Falmar with the Orcs, Red Guards and Bretons at their side. My god, what a display that would be. That was a brisk recap on what we know about the Elder Scrolls 6 and my own personal theory. Call me psychic, I'm convinced this is going to happen. I am fully convinced this will happen. Thank you for your time watching this video. If you have your own theories, give me a little summary in the comments. I'm just so curious about everything.